Well, here we are. We're back in some way or another. Uh, and I say one way or another because suddenly the main system shut down and it won't come back. And there's no reason why. So what I've done is I've, um, I've used the phone. And that's what you're seeing me on at the moment is our phone system, which seems to be bearing up reasonably well. I must say that we use Ariel, the people at Ariel, for most of our phone stuff, and they really are first class. Here we are with the well, with our trousers down, to be quite honest with you, because I have no idea of what we can now use, or whether we are. Yes, we are live, and it's all a bit different on the phone. So forgive me if it'll all be all sorts of all over the place. So here we go. You're just going to have to put up with me, and perhaps we'll cut it a bit short this morning. But we were just going through the fact that the main headline this morning is once again a young person has been shot dead. He is 15 years of age. Now, the police, quite rightly, have to look out for themselves. They mustn't say, "Oh, I will put my life on the line in the line of duty in every instance." The fact of the matter is, we don't know what the circumstance was, but it's a 15-year-old. Sorry, a 13-year-old. What was a 13-year-old doing out in the middle of the night, for one thing? It's easy to to blame the police. They do not have an easy road to home, and the CCTV coverage shows that the boy didn't have a gun. The policeman said he thought he did. But I was passing on my own experiences when I was a prison guard of what it's like in the pitch of the night. You simply don't know. And I was chasing a girl. I was, it was a 13-year-old who had escaped in the middle of the night. I took off after her down alleys and byways. She sure knew how to hide. But I have to say that an element of fear comes in. If you're in unfamiliar territory, you're somebody who's probably going to fight like crazy if you find them, and you can't see a damn thing. As I felt vulnerable, and I do understand how the police feel vulnerable. But once again, I think that I keep on hammering on because the first thing in a budget to go in hard times is the training budget. We can't do with we can't pay to have people trained, and as a consequence, we get poor personnel and we get poor service and people who are not able to do the job. So until we know absolutely the details, I'm not prepared to totally condemn this policeman. The only thing is, of course, in the United States, it occurs more and more and more. But here, London, in parts of London, are turning into a jungle where young people, respectable people, are suddenly set upon for their iPhone, and not just set upon. It's not just a smash and grab. It's not a pilfering thing. Is knives are used, and sometimes lives are lost. It's a dilemma that I think society has got to look at, particularly once we're out of lockdown. What has gone wrong with the main stream this morning? I don't know, and unless I stop and start to fiddle around with it, it's better for me not to lose the connection that I've got. Of course, the royal family now are gathering, ready for the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral tomorrow in Windsor, and it's amazing, isn't it, that we can have so much controversy, but this one comes from within. And while I'm generally speaking, I am a supporter of royalty because that is part of our constitutional monarchy, and it's a system which keeps us safe, from takeover by nasty and naughty men. And if you don't think they're not lurking in politics and in the byways and highways of the UK, then you've got another thing coming. I think sometimes that the general public, because we are primarily a nice nation, totally lack understanding that there are nasty, nasty people. And look, when now a burglar, where we used to think in terms of the burglar being in a striped jersey and hello, Gav, he's not. He's now a well-armed and well-informed person who doesn't mind taking a life or two from time to time. And it's one of those things that I wonder if I could just ask people this morning not to message me if you can, because going on the phone, it probably covers my face and so on and so forth. So if you can just wait until afterwards, it would be very kind. Normally, I encourage people to message and we can see what's going on, but the system is broken down. Oh, yeah, the system. And that brings me to one of my pet rants. What do we do with computers? I'm getting more and more and more people to admit that computers, while we couldn't do without them, is that they are running wild and that we are not using them. They are using us. And a long, long, hard look needs to be taken at that. Anyway, so the royal family will now not wear military uniform. And I'm, strange phrase, but I'm sure that the Duke will turn in his grave at that, because he was a warrior. He was a military man. He became consort to the Queen and made that his life, but he served with distinction in the Second World War. He was a naval man. And the military were very close to him and to certain members of his family. So I'm not quite sure about whether she was wise, but she had to make an on-the-spot decision because the children were falling out. Is the old days, you give them a cuff around the ear, tell them to shut up and do what they're told. Nowadays, if you do that, oh dear, you're likely to end up in the dock yourself. Is a clip around the ear is no abuse. And yet the strange thing is, I talked to a number of bonfire boys here. For those people who aren't aware, bonfire is a sacred ritual in Lewes. It goes on for much longer prior to and post November the 5th, and is historically based not on Guy Fawkes as much as Mary, Bloody Mary, Queen Bloody Mary the First, who burned people at the stake for their religious beliefs. So there is a passion here, and the spectacle is quite incredible. It's quite incredible. But I spoke to some of them, and they do naughty things, just naughty things, like letting off a bang of firework where they shouldn't, or teasing the coppers a little bit. And there was I only met him after he retired from the police force, but he's a lovely man, and he was a sergeant, and everybody respected him. And the bonfire boys, particularly those who had a tendency to be naughty, would in private conversation say he would take us down a back alley, he would clip our ear, and he would say, "Now, if I catch you again, the other ear gets clipped and twice as hard." And he said we all had huge respect for this sergeant, huge respect. And so I just wonder whether the balance has got out of kilter. Okay, we don't want to go back to where abuse of slapping children all over the place, but having a total ban on any sort of corporal punishment at all, I have my doubts. But then you see, once again, my age, I've been there, done that, seen it all. Oh dear, what a pain in the arse I am. Never mind, it's Friday and we can all be released. as we said in our headline when we first put this up on our mainstream system today, is don't worry, it'll soon be Monday. Let's have some fun over the weekend because today the skies are clear. If I look at my magic tree, it is absolutely stationary. It says a light breeze, but the breeze hasn't come yet. The birds are flocking into the tree. I think even from this distance that you can now start to see the buds coming on the tree, spring rebirth. So all in all, we are beginning to look at rather good things, except that the system broke down, and I'm now having to broadcast on my phone. It is 7:57. Is that right? Yes, it is 7:57, and we've had a big gap in service this morning. It means that we can't bring in half the video that I'd lovingly prepared. Well, no, I haven't actually, because one of the things that I've been doing, as you know, is sleeping rough, just to see what it's like. And believe me, when we come to the homeless, a lot of people are very cynical about the homeless. Oh yeah, they sit up there all day and they put their caps and they get people to donate and so on and so forth. And the fact of the matter is that they then go home to a very nice flat in Brighton or whatever. Well, maybe one or two. But the question of homelessness is, it's astonishing that this has happened to good, solid, middle-class people. Since I started this campaign, if you like, of awareness, and I declared myself homeless, and I've experienced it for 2 days, and believe me, I don't want to go there, thank you. But there's all sorts of people who've said, yes, they were once homeless. They had a lot of problems. And, one of the things that we don't do in our society is we don't actually delve enough into the homeless, the mentally ill, the elderly, and the financial situation which allows computers to do the most outrageous things that we would not permit in our own home as a civilized society. So those are the four things that I think that we've got to watch and take a look at. Anyway, going back to the headlines, there's a row over uniforms, and now nobody will wear a uniform. And can't you just see it? The Queen stamping her feet. Well, you lot, if you can't make up your mind, that's it. No uniforms. Boom. I bet you they were shocked. I bet you but too late. They were being self-centered, and they lay themselves open to criticism under those circumstances. And it really is not at all, what do you say, worthy of the royal family to behave like that. But they do. And that has nothing to do with the fact that the Queen is head of state of a constitutional monarchy. And you will never, ever persuade me that the system that we have in this country of governance, even though it needs root and branch reform at the coalface, but the system of a constitutional monarchy as we have it, and with a largely unwritten constitution as we have it, and with tiers of power spread over various organizations as we have it, isn't the best that we possibly can find in the world, because there are lots of democratic societies, democracy one day, and an authoritarian ruler the next. Can it happen here? Well, yes, it could. If things got severe enough, of course it could, and we should not be complacent. But our system of government is very, very difficult to overthrow. Very difficult. I mean, not least of which is the Queen is head of the armed forces. So, put that in your pipe and smoke it. It is anybody wants to come knocking on Buckingham Palace with a troop of soldiers and say, "Get out! I'm taking over." He's got another thing coming, because the British armed forces are fairly extensive, which takes me on to the next headline. And the next headline is that it is a continuing worry that President Putin of Russia, the Russian Federation, it continues to build his troops on the borders of Ukraine. Oh dear, Keith. Yeah, I know. I've been there. I spent a couple of months or so in eastern Ukraine, in a place called Lugansk, now famous for the site from which, whether it was Ukrainians or whether it was Russian forces, the rocket was launched that brought down the Malaysian airliner, civil airliner. Yes, I've been there, and I have to say that Lugansk is the one place that I came as close to death as I have anywhere. There's a lovely man called Alan McGarvey, an economist. He was there at the same time, and as he says, Keith, it was vodka that saved you because we were out. I mean, Lugansk is, you know, if lockdown said, the only place you could go on holiday is to Lugansk, stay here, stay in lockdown. I enjoy everything about these places, but Lugansk is one of the most unattractive places that I've ever been to in my life. And I've been in Kosovo, and I've been in Serbia, and I've been in Bosnia, and I've been in Armenia, and all sorts of places that are recovering from some sort of war or some sort of deprivation. Lugansk, you do not want to go to. But there were one or two little restaurants, nice little restaurants, and one had all sorts of different shades of vodka, hundreds of them. And Alan and I had been out having dinner, and we had tasted several varieties of vodka. Staggered home about midnight, and the next thing I knew was a knocking on the door, and it was the police, and the couple next door had been murdered. Alan says it was always the vodka that saved me. Because if I'd have been home a little earlier, it could easily have been me, and it did turn out to be just a random killing. They were looking for some money or whatever, and they managed to get in off the street. I was flat number one, and I was not there, so no answer to their rap. Flat number two, they're an elderly couple, and in the course of the burglary, they were murdered. Anyway, the reason that I'm talking about Lugansk is it's close to the Russian border, and there is a lot of sympathy amongst the people there for belonging to the Russian Federation. They speak Russian, not Ukrainian, and they had a very heavy dependency upon the state support for steel and coal. Which was withdrawn when the EU decided to go on a privatization race. Oh yeah, the steelworks are still going. The mines are still operating, but they are in private ownership now. And private owners go in and look for efficiency. And the steel plant, which had 30,000 people working for it, they found that they can work and operate satisfactorily with 10,000. So that was 20,000 onto the street, just from the steel plant alone. And that was replicated several times. So you can understand that with President Putin amassing on that border, it's not as if he is finding the other side of the border totally unfriendly natives. He isn't. So these are some of the things that one has to look at to see, instead of just guessing whether he will do something or not. And Joe Biden has more or less said, well, please don't go across the border, and I'll have a nice chat to you, and we'll see whether we can get some sort of resolution in a couple of months' time. We've said, well, we're part of NATO. We would support NATO. I don't think we would, as an independent country, go to war with Russia, but NATO is very much a part of that part of the world, if you like, and it is their duty to respond. So all in all, it is a tense situation, and it's one worth watching. Now, money and hands in pockets where they shouldn't be. David Cameron has said that he will give a full explanation of his behavior when it comes to Greensill. If you don't totally understand what Greensill is all about, let's put it this way. They are a finance company, and they're a finance company that were financing very, very big projects like the steel industry in this country. and they went broke. And that has ramifications, of course. And it turns out that David Cameron was asking for favours from some of his former colleagues, his former cabinet, to try and keep Greensill healthy, or at least, if not healthy, going, operating. Some merit in that, perhaps. But now it turns out that Matt Hancock also was involved with a company that got a nice fat government contract, and Boris has rushed out a statement saying, no, Hancock didn't do anything wrong, don't get the wrong end of the stick, etc., etc. Well, it's easy to do that, isn't it? But the fact of the matter is that that, as somebody said to me yesterday, quoting or para-quoting, because it's not exact, is something is rotten in the state of Denmark, which I think comes from Hamlet. And it's all about the corruption and cronyism and all sorts of other naughty things that go on in government ranks once power is attained. And it begins to seem as if, indeed, we have a number of people in power, and it doesn't surprise me, actually. We have a number of people in power that are working as hard to stuff their own pockets as well as try to handle the COVID situation. So there you are. Hancock is somebody who is he's a trusted cabinet minister. They've got to be cleaner and clean, whiter than white, if that's not a racist comment. And so I think it bears more testimony to the fact that we need a free press. Have we got a free press? All I can tell you is that if anybody is paying us here, I don't know which bank account they're putting the money into, because it's sure as hell not the one that keeps us going. We really have fought tooth and nail for every penny that we can possibly lay our hands on to keep Mirador Television going and sailing on to the future. I think we made it. Particularly since I haven't cost a penny sleeping on the road, sleeping rough. We shouldn't be in a society where patronage, cronyism makes the government money go into pockets that it shouldn't normally end up in. And it is the duty of the media to act as a sort of unofficial opposition. And that's not too many like us. So it's tough. It's not going to bother me too much. But the fact is that we can be friends to nobody. And in some ways, the major press has been taken over by big business and big money, and it tries to be friends to various people along the way, and that's wrong. Independent media is essential in any free society. And once again, I've lived and worked in many societies where they don't have a free press, and their governance isn't free. You can get. In Romania, even when it joined the EU, people were being thrown into the jug without much evidence. Journalists were being told not to do this and not to do that. In fact, in one famous instance, the one television station, newly privatized, caught a minister getting money put into a brown paper bag. And what was the government's reaction? They passed a law saying television must not show those sort of things. Yeah. So a free press with what's going on at the moment. I do apologize for the fact that you just got me, because our whole system has just broken down, and I have no idea why. It just went off the air. We were off. It won't click in again to give us the secure. No. Well, maybe it has. But it's too late now for me to do anything about going back to the old system. Otherwise, I have to interrupt this broadcast again. But we are using the good old phone, and just so that we can provide the service that we always do, and even in a skeleton way, it's me. It's just me. And you're just going to have to put up with that. But then again, the wonderful thing about media in a free society is there is a switch. You don't like what you're seeing, you have every right to turn that switch and to put it to off and make sure that you do away with whatever it is that you didn't want to watch. And it's a great freedom, one that many people don't understand. Let's go down right in South America. The COVID is beginning to gather pace there, and until it is conquered globally, I think we cannot rest on our laurels. It's like a lot of other things. Is you can do things at home, and you think, okay, we've conquered this, or we've got this under control, but because you've ignored what's happening in the rest of the world, then it all catches up with you eventually because it comes bouncing back. So South Latin America, as we call it now, I call it South America, is having a bad time as far as the virus is concerned. Right. The Olympics, it is said that the Olympics should go ahead because Japan is expecting a fourth wave. So if we want to be critical of our own government, and so we should not necessarily, just because they've done something right, take our eye off the ball and allow them to do so. But our own government have handled COVID much better than almost any country in the world. And for that, I think we must be grateful. They haven't done a lot of other things right, but some of the attendant things on COVID, particularly support for small business and some freelance individuals, has been abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And that's going to come back and smack them in the face, believe me. But the fact is that, generally speaking, in keeping us safe from, even though people go, and it's not a smoker's cough, I don't smoke. They've done a terrific job. Now, you'll be pleased to know that it is 14 minutes past 8. So you've only got another 15 minutes of me rabbiting on and chatting away. I suppose I'm enjoying sitting here, being able to chat to you, and I wish we'd got our two-way system going. Let me just put you into the picture as far as Mirador is concerned. First of all, for those of you who don't know, Mirador comes out of Lewes in East Sussex. It's got a small studio, which doubles as an office, and along with our phones and some of our equipment, we actually broadcast to the world, or we did broadcast to the world. We have an infrastructure which takes us via Roku, Apple, Amazon, and other big streaming organizations, including the two iPhones or smartphones, iPhone and Android, so that we were broadcasting to billions and billions of people. Now, don't get carried away any more than we do. That doesn't mean to say billions and billions of people were actually listening to us or watching us. But it did mean that our service could be seen anywhere in the world. And we were picking up. 3,000 people were registered as watching us overseas. Not a lot in the scheme of things, but it was growing. And we had reached 15,000 domestically here in the UK. And then this latest lockdown hit us, as it did with almost everybody else that is small. And we have struggled. But we are now, it's given us time to reflect on what we were doing and what we would like to do. There are several programs that we urgently want to bring back. One being Leslie Nora Hills, who, if you can see behind me a painting of me, that's what Leslie Hills does. She paints well-known figures, famous figures, Now, there are lots of people saying she's painted Boris. So I'm really talking about very famous, and Ronnie Barker and Corbett and so on. So she's really done the top people. I don't claim that I'd be anywhere near that famous, but we did start a program called Leslie's People, which took some of the portraits and then brought the subjects to life. And we gave some background on who they were and what they'd done. And it was immensely successful. And we hope that we can bring that back. The reason that we had to drop it is because we can't bring people into the studio. In fact, only because I come in here on my own. It's easing a bit now, but I come in on my own. Were we able to use a studio at all? So all these things add to making it very difficult, particularly for a small organization, to make programs and to operate. But anyway, we are on the way back. We intend to develop this particular program, Break an Egg, into rather a better reflection of our society, and it will be broadly for Lewes, East Sussex, Lewes district people, the towns around about. But the rest of our programming, where we intend to, we're planning a virtual pub so that we can invite you into that. We plan to do a series on some of the villages around Lewes, which are very much still run in the old, almost medieval way. So it's well worthwhile doing something on that. So we've got lots of plans, and we are getting cracking. The studio has become a tip. That's got to be reorganized. Then we need to start to get our freelance team back together again. So there's work to be done, but it is beginning to gel. It is beginning to get cracking. And Susan Harris, who does photography and puts up lovely pictures of Lewes. Well, I use them almost on a daily basis because Lewes is such a beautiful place, and she captures the atmosphere of it. Paul Fowle, who jousts with me most mornings, they're all back in harness. Jane Watkins out in Hastings, they're all back in harness and trying to help us put together a new deal, if you like, a new Mirador, which will get back to the high standards it had just pre-COVID, pre-lockdown. So there you are. That's what Mirador is all about. It tries hard to keep an eye on local governance. It tries hard to wed people. For instance, we have correspondents in New York. We, from time to time, get hold of the mayor of Lewes in Delaware and say, "Come on, say hello to our mayor." John Lamb, and we've done that, and we plan to do much more of that. Is trying to bring the world into Lewes and taking Lewes to the world, because it helps a better understanding. And I am particularly keen, and I don't quite know how we're going to do it, but it's something that I'm going to talk to the council about and to experts, is training. Now, there is an apprenticeship program, but it's like everything else, is you need money to put these apprentices to work. And we don't have that sort of money. But we do have the capacity for training, and we do have a very good track record when it comes to training. Very good track record. In fact, some very well-known names in broadcasting have been coached or trained by us. And we would like to put that to use so that youngsters can find a niche and put on their CVs, yes, I've had work experience, because a piece of paper from university or college isn't enough anymore. Lots of people waving pieces of paper around, but do you have experience? Do you know what this business is all about? And the people that we've had, youngsters, have been very talented, but it's a shockwave when they actually hit what we have to do, what television calls for. So I'm very keen that we do a good training program. And if anybody, and there are no isms in this place. If somebody comes along and says, I'm 80, I want to have a go, right, you're on. You don't have to be 20 or 21, just out of university with a piece of paper. But we don't care as long as you are dedicated to what you want to do, and that you will you're really interested in making media your career. Then we'll help. So there you are. We're a coat of many colours, and I am astonished, absolutely astonished. And I've been saying this for the last few days because it's amazing that Lewis has now thrown up, if that's the word, has shown that it has very, very talented, and they actually, in this particular instance, they all happen to be ladies. It's not an ism, but they are all ladies. Is 4 ladies now who show a natural propensity towards being very good broadcasters, and it's such a pity that I can't really at the moment, because if I dangled a $1 million check in front of them, I'm quite sure that they would come. And that's not a nasty comment. It's that they have to look after their families, and they have to look after making sure that they can pay the butcher and the baker. And sometimes working in television initially, you can't do that. But we have 4 very talented ladies who, in my opinion, and I've been around, could make it at a top level, as long as they're prepared to accept the hurly-burly of television life. And that's the one thing that quite often stops people going any further in it, because it is hurly-burly, it is uncertain, it is difficult, and in the long run, it's authoritarian. There can only be one boss in television. Those places that have tried a democratic approach, let's all vote on this, have actually been disaster, absolute disasters. So that's what we're all about at Mirador, and I hope that we can make a significant contribution to this society. One of our slogans is "Shout it loud, Lewis is great," and actually, Lewis could be great again. It's in torpor at the moment, mainly because its character is changing. A lot of people are now using it as a dormitory town, and that is not good, because the talent goes elsewhere. They come home for bed and breakfast. So I think that with its new character, new temperament, Lewis is struggling a little bit. But there's no reason why it shouldn't regain its former composure. It's been a steel town with the Everys. It's been a brewing town with Harvey's. It's been an academic town with the new University of Sussex when it was new. And it has been a town for artists and musicians. And it still remains, to some extent, a town for those people. But as far as the economy is concerned, I would like to think that media could play a huge part in this. And actually, speaking to some of my colleagues who are in other, there's a radio station poised to come here after lockdown. And there is a magazine poised to start again after lockdown. We kept going with a skeleton type of operation. We are poised to get going. There is strength in this town, in Lewis, in media. There are people who are really terrific, really talented people. And that's very rare. It's rare to find just one person in television in quite a large community. To find 4 in a community of 17 to 18,000 is astonishing, absolutely astonishing. I wish I could only just put them all to work. In fact, I've tried sort of battering my eyes and trying to look coy. It doesn't work. Give us the dosh. And believe me, after this splash that's coming at the moment, where people are lining up to get to the shops, panting at the bit to go to the pub, life is not going to be easy. And a huge amount of money has been spent by government. and they've got to get it back somehow. So it'll be interesting to hear what the next budget has to hold. So don't hold your breath that all in the garden is going to be lovely, because it probably isn't. And the better prepared you are to get at work, the higher up the tree you'll come, and the less strain you'll find in wonderful post-Brexit, post-COVID Britain. Okay, well, wonderful. I've been ranting and raving and so on, and I wish I could have shown you some other things, because we did have several things that were worthwhile showing you this morning, but they bit the dust for today. But they are timeless, and we will bring them back to you on Monday. And in the meantime, we will find out why we lost our system. And I hope that getting the backup was okay. Not okay, listening to me rabbit on because you don't. You tap in and out. But nonetheless, I'm sorry that, because television is pictorial. Television needs video. It needs photographs. It needs drawings, needs sketches to bring it alive along with video. That's what we hope that we can bring to you. A nice combination. 8:27. I think I'm going to say to you, toodle pip at this stage. And I hope that you'll join us again on Monday at the same time. And as our new programs come into force, we'll tell you which days that they will be shown, what the starting time will be. But of course, everything that we do goes to YouTube, and it goes to Facebook. So you can catch up whatever you like. So you don't have to rush to view what we're doing. You can do it in your own sweet time. 8:28. I'm off. It's Friday. I've got to go to the eye hospital this afternoon, so I've got to bundle everything in that I do this morning into this morning. So once again, there's no rest for the wicked, and I can assure you, wicked I am. And it seems like a good adage, because rest I haven't had, particularly when you're sleeping rough. Pay attention to the plight of our homeless. Pay attention to the plight of our elderly. Pay attention to the sick. Pay attention to all those things that you tend to brush off. Mental illness being at the top of the list, I think. It's 29. It's 8:29 now. I really am going to say toodle pip. And thank you for being with us. We really do appreciate it. Bye.